Hello YouTube, B3 and Naughty Cat here, back with another kicking graphic novel review. I know I said I would do this one a few reviews ago, and then I just did a bunch of Godzilla instead. And part of me sorry, but another part of me really enjoyed reading those Godzilla books. But I have gone over this book, and I did do the kind of prequel title, Edge of Spider-Geddon, and today we are doing Spider-Geddon. Excuse me if I accidentally call it Spider-Verse a couple of times in the video. I did that a couple of times in the Edge of Spider-Geddon video, and I do apologize in advance. So, quick read-up of the back of the book. Spider-Verse united every spider person. Now Spider-Geddon will destroy them all. The inheritors have escaped their radioactive prison planet and made their way to the Marvel Universe. As the villains draw first blood, a whole spider army must reunite to keep them at bay. Starring Spider-Man, Otto Octavius, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, Spider-Woman, Spider-Punk, the live-action Japanese TV Spider-Man, also known as Toku Spider-Man or Spider-Man, the Spider-Man from the new video game, Spider-Man PS4, and many more spiders, including some brand new ones. Prepare to meet Web-Slinger, Spidey of the Wild West, May Parker, Spider-Man, and more. But as the threat they face builds, things do not look good for our webheads and wall crawlers. The end of Spider-Verse is here. And it was pretty rad. So far, I like the Spider-Verse event more, but that might just be because I haven't read this whole event yet. Yes, I read all the issues contained in this volume, which would be Spider-Geddon 0 through 5, and Vault of Spiders 1 and 2. But I haven't read all the tie-in books. I'll be reading the Covert Ops book next, and the others aren't out yet at the time of recording this. But I read all the tie-ins for Spider-Verse in the order. And you're also supposed to read some of the tie-ins that haven't been published in trades before you read some of the issues of this. So there are like some story gaps that I haven't been filled in my head, so it's hard for me to truly appreciate everything without that. That's one benefit of reading this single issue, but I'm assuming down the line they might release a big deluxe version like they did with Spider-Verse, because my Spider-Verse trade has all the tie-ins and everything included inside of it. It's all included inside of it in one big trade. You can get all the single trades, or you can get that one big-ass trade. I read it all single issue, and then I just bought the trade for rereading purposes and sold all my single issues, but still. Now I'm going to give you the creative team by Christos Gage, Dan Slott, Jed McKay, Cullen Bunn, James Asmus, Neela McGrawder, Jeffrey Thorne, Ryan North, Jor Malonia, Carl Barberi, Clayton Crane, David Bolidon, Javier Goron, Jorge Molina, Carlo Barberi, Alberto Albuquerque, Javier Polido, Juan Guedon, Scott Kolbish, Sheldon Vetta, hopefully I'm pronouncing all these names correctly, David A. Williams, Mark Bagley, Jose Martin Jr., David Kroll, Andre Mosa, Israel Silva, and Musante Vincent. Pretty cool. So first up we have all the actual Spider-Geddon issues. The issue 0 kind of starts us off in the PS4 Spider-Man game, and it seems to take place pretty swiftly after the game ends. I don't know if it's taken place before or after the DLC, because I haven't finished the DLC story yet, so I don't know how it ends and what the ramifications are, honestly. But PS4 Spider-Verse is swinging around, and he fights his world's version of the Tarantula, who has like mechanical spider arms, which is really cool. I actually like the Tarantula and don't think he's used enough, so that made me really happy to see the Tarantula. And then Superior Spider-Man shows up to assist him, and they kind of bond because remember PS4 Spider-Man in that story had great respect for Otto Octavius. Otto Octavius was like his mentor, but then he kind of went crazy. But he didn't go crazy because he was a bad person. He went crazy because his brain and body were dying. He was pretty much turning into a vegetable, and then he made his arms, but didn't test them properly, and then the chips and stuff kind of messed with his head, and that drove him crazy. And that did kind of happen for the 616 Doc Ock. The arms did have a bit of an influence over his personality. But at the same time, he also was abused as a child, and his mother told him every day that he was the smartest man on the planet, and lots of different stuff influenced him becoming a villain other than just the arms, while really just the tech and desperation made the Doc Ock in the PS4 game a villain. So PS4 Spider-Man kind of has a lot of respect for Superior Spider-Man, because he is a Doc Ock. But there's also a lot of drama involved and some mistrust, and they do kind of start to feel for each other, and etc. That kind of changes down the line when PS4 Spider-Man kind of learns some more things about Superior Spider-Man. But we also see some Web Warriors action going on, and remember, if you saw my Edge of Spider-Geddon video, I talked about how Doc Ock was actually responsible for the entirety of Spider-Geddon happening because he was using Inheritor's clone tech to clone himself whenever he died immediately, which was pretty crazy. Very Doc Ock of him. And then the Inheritors like piggybacked on the interdimensional signal, because remember, the Inheritor tech could respawn them even if they died in another dimension. It was an interdimensional signal. So then they used those signals to piggyback into his cloning tech, and then cloned themselves in Doc Ock's lab, which was pretty crazy. And then they had to get the crystal essence of their father so they could clone their father, etc. And apparently in one of the side titles you learn that the Inheritors themselves are only bad because they were abused and their father intentionally turned them into totem vampires and all this stuff, blah blah blah, and that they deserve a fresh start and etc. But the father is a straight up villain and doesn't. But they decide the other Inheritors do. And Miles really takes charge in this, because the 616 Peter Parker is nowhere to be found until like the last few pages. That's it. He's not there. He's fighting Moreland by himself in the Spectacular Spider-Man title, I believe. I haven't caught up to that in that book either, and I will be reviewing that book as well. But Miles Morales takes charge in this. You remember how last time, like, Peter was leading one side, like a bunch of them, and then Doc Ock was leading a bunch of them? It's kind of the same way in this. Miles is leading a bunch of them, and then Superior Spider-Man is leading a bunch of them as well. And they kind of do clash. It seems like Spider-Gwen almost dies. She does get her name Ghost Spider in this book, by the way. Doc Ock switches his Superior Octopus costume for the Superior Spider-Man costume, because he's sick of everyone knowing he's Doc Ock and no one really trusts his octopus side and stuff. Blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of cool stuff that happens. I always like seeing the Web Warriors. And some real crazy shit happens in the beginning, too. You know how Spider-Man UK has the powers of Captain Britain and Spider-Man, and he's, like, really important when it comes to multiverse Spider-Man stuff. He was, like, the leader of the Web Warriors after Spider-Verse. He's the one that got all the Spider people together for Spider-Verse, gave them all their interdimensional tech that lets them just hop around to the multiverse willy-nilly. And he kind of got them all together for this event as well. And then he dies almost immediately. He is killed off so fast in this event. And you know who died before him and really didn't even get a chance to speak hardly? Spider-Man Noir. They killed Noir and UK in this event. And they didn't even make a big deal about it. Two extremely popular Spider people that got relatively recent Marvel Legends dead. It was the main Noir and the main UK. They are dead. DEAD. Done. Finished. Can you believe that? I mean, it's like actually crazy. This is going to be a long one, by the way, because it's a very lengthy story and there's a lot I want to talk about and I don't want to do multiple parts. We do get to see Mayday again. I love Mayday and Spider-Punk, who I also adore, even though I didn't really like his Edge of Spider-Verse issue that much. I did really like the stuff we learned about his world in the first Spider-Verse event. But we do get to meet many new spiders, like the Norman Osborn spider that they kind of showed us in Edge of Spider-Verse. He's got like multiple arms and all this crazy stuff. And then we get to meet Spiders Man, which is a bunch of radioactive spiders that ate Peter Parker and absorbed his consciousness. And they'll like eat human flesh, but they also crack wise like Peter and have his memories. And it's really creepy. And we'll get to more on him later. But you remember the Bioshock looking dude that became the Weaver? He dies as well. Like, so many spiders get killed off in Spider-Geddon. Important ones. Like, it's pretty crazy, to be completely honest. but Kane is spent most of his time in a side title. Ben Reilly was a big part of it. I stopped reading his solo title because it sucked, but I might start again just to review it, and because I really just want to read everything with Kane in it. We get to see a lot of Toku Spider-Man. Spider-Man is in this a bunch. We even get to see him be recruited. He's fighting in Leopardon. And Superior Spider-Man and PS4 Spider-Man go in to recruit him, and he's like, "Oh, what up? You doing multiverse stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like, it's just some normal fucking thing. And the Superior Spider-Man is like, "You should use your sword." And Toku Spider-Man's like, "Using sword vigor right away wouldn't be honorable. And Superior Spider-Man says, "Well, not using it right away allows the monster to cause more damage, which also isn't honorable." So, and Toku Spider-Man's like, "That's a good point." So that was just a little joke about Toku tropes, just waiting to use the strongest attack last. Why don't they just use it first and get it over with? You know, I love Toku. I'm gonna do a lot of Toku reviews on my B3 Productions channel, second channel, link in the description below. Yeah, just a little shameless promotion while I'm here. There's a fun Wild West Spider-Man, all kinds of good stuff. Well, yeah, so they are able to revive their father, the Inheritors are, to fight, and some of the spiders have some plans that are a little too radical, like the Norman Osborn Spider-Man and Spider's Man kind of want to do a little much, so they are forced to leave. It's even too much for Superior Spider-Man, who's, willing to just slaughter all these Inheritors. Oh, we also get to see the Renew Your Vows spiders, which is pretty cool. I love them. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff goes on. And then the Norman Spider and the Spider's Man end up destroying the Web of Life. Yeah, they destroy it, but they keep a little piece of it so that they can travel between dimensions, but no one else can. So what they did was they sealed 616 off from all other dimensions, so that 616 is not accessible by anyone else in the multiverse. That way they would trap the Inheritors in the dimension, and then most spiders wouldn't have to worry about them. By doing that, they're sacrificing all the spiders that teamed up with them, but it also saves the multiverse. Was it the wrong thing to do? Yeah, because it ended up not actually working. And it does seem like they might be villains for the Superior Spider-Man title later on. I can't wait till the first trade comes out for this new Superior Spider-Man book, by the way. I will be reviewing that. Just count on me reviewing all the spider-related trades from now on. Any spider-related trade, count on me reviewing it. But then the dimension becomes accessible again because of something like Spiderling does. I don't know. Once again, that's an tie-in book that I haven't gotten to yet. Actually, it's an tie-in book that I don't think is even out yet. But Miles Morales summons the Enigma Force. The Enigma Force is like, "Fuck you, none of you are worthy. How dare you summon me?" And Miles is like, "Hey, fuck you, Enigma Force. How dare you? Why do you get to decide who's worthy? No one's pure of heart. Everyone's got good and bad. No one's worthy of anything." And the Enigma Force was like, "That was pretty ballsy." So Miles Morales gets the Enigma Force, becomes Captain Universe Miles Morales Spider-Man, which is pretty cool. So he gets to fight the Inheritor's father like that. And he also uses the sword. In my favorite comic panel ever, he uses Leopardon's sword, Sword Vigor, to fight the Inheritors. Let me pull up that panel really quickly for y'all, because it is my favorite comic panel as of today. I absolutely adore it. Captain Universe Miles Morales using Sword Vigor. Why did he have Sword Vigor, you ask? Well, it's a little vague. But it does appear that they killed off Toku Spider-Man. The Japanese Spider-Man does appear to be dead. Leopardon was smashed into the ground after an Inheritor busted through to fight Spider-Man face to face. Spider-Man was like, "I'm the emissary of hell, you can't kill me." But then the Inheritor comes out of the wreckage and Spider-Man doesn't. So it's like, hey, did you just kill off my favorite Spider-Man? How dare you? Absolutely, how dare you do that? But you also don't see him die, so they can bring him back whenever they want. He's easily one of the most popular ones when it comes to these multiverse crossovers. So I hope they didn't kill him. He's my favorite Spider-Man. So, I mean, have you seen that show? It's crazy. I love it. I love Toku so much. But that's pretty much it. They defeat the Inheritors. The regular Spider-Man shows up, and the way they defeat them is they kill them. That's not a joke. I'm filming this on April 1st, but that's not a joke. That is not a joke at all. What they do is, because remember, if they kill them, then they just respawn. They just get cloned back into their prime, and then they fight. Well, here is what they did. They reprogrammed the cloning tubes and messed with their genetic code. So they killed them with the Enigma Force and stuff. They went back to the cloning tubes and were cloned, that's right, into babies. They were turned into babies. Because remember I said earlier, in one of the side books, they learn about their history, and it turns out they were heavily abused as children. Their father intentionally turned them into energy vampires, etc., etc., etc. He made them monsters on purpose. That wasn't their choice. They were just normal kids until then. So what they did was they made them babies, wiped their memories, rewrote their genetic code to make them basically just regular humans. And then they were like, now we got to find someone to raise these babies. And Spider-Man, or the May Parker Spider-Woman, who is extremely wholesome, and we'll get to more about her in a second, she decides to adopt them because she'd been talking with her Ben and Peter about adopting for a while anyways. So she takes in all the Inheritor babies, which is really nice of her. She's the most wholesome spider, period. But then we also have 2 issues of Vault of Spiders, which is included in this because it's only 2 issues. That's not enough to put it in a book by itself. And it also kind of pumps this one up, because this one was only like, what, 6 issues? So, all Vault of Spiders really is more Edge of Spider-Geddon. That's all it really is. Because Edge of Spider-Geddon devotes 1 issue to a story about a multi-dimension spider before they are recruited. But Vault of Spiders just does multiple smaller stories within a single issue. Right? So, we get the story about the Web Slinger, which is the Wild West Spider-Man who does have guns, and the guns can shoot real bullets or webs depending on what he puts in it. He does murder when he has to, but he goes out of his way to avoid murdering. It's not his first choice ever. He fights a vampire, pretty cool. You know, Morbius stuff. Really dig it. He saves some kids. And then we have one that's in the style of manga, which I really like. Black and white, manga style, Spider-Man! And it kind of acts... And it takes place after his show. He's fighting Professor Monster, but Professor Monster becomes Prime Minister Monster. And then Spider-Man says something along the lines of, "Dictator, you were not democratically elected. You cannot extinguish the burning vigor of a man. I yearn for your destruction," which is so Toku, so Japanese. They really just... I just love that they use him. 1, because he deserves more time in the spotlight. And 2, because they really nail his character. The emissary from hell, man. The god of wrath. Or god of death, I guess. Emperor of demons. He just kicks ass and then leaves for Planet Spider at the end. And then there's one where everyone does stuff in like a virtual world. Real Ready Player One-esque. And then there's like a spider woman who... does stuff there, and they call her Spider Bite, B-Y-T-E, like a spider bite, like a spider chomps down on your flesh, but it's like a pun, you see, because it's like a bite of data. So she like has spider powers seemingly like in the digital world. I'm not sure if she programs spider powers into herself. I'm not sure if the goggles, like VR tech they use, like scans your DNA so you behave in the virtual world how you can in real life. Can she fight crime in real life? Can she just fight virtual crime? I don't know how it works. It doesn't go into a lot of detail. And then there's one where Kingpin is like hunting dinosaurs in the Savage Land, and it's for the Savage Spider-Man, who is a Peter Parker who was raised by giant prehistoric spider monsters in the Savage Land, and he got his powers because he went through the trial of Venoms or something like that. So they can, or Trial of 1,000 Venoms, that's what it was called. So I'm looking at my notes right now. It's Trial of 1,000 Venoms. And so he repeatedly gets bitten by these prehistoric spiders, and every time he survives a venom bite, he gets stronger, but then they bite him again, he gets stronger, they bite him again, he gets stronger, and eventually the venom became such a part of him that he got spider powers. And he protects the savage land from like poachers and etc. Because no one is supposed to go to the savage land. It's like against international law. But it turns out Kingpin went there with the actual intention of killing Spider-Man, because he killed Spider-Man's parents in that plane to keep them from uncovering his corruption and stuff. And then when it crashed, Peter survived, and Peter's like a loose end he wanted to tie up. And Spider-Man was like, I don't kill people, but spiders do. So his spider, like real spider monster family, ate the Kingpin and his men. It was rad. And then we got more stories about the spider, which is Captain George Stacy. Gwen Stacy's dad. So he's like injured on the force and gets spider powers. But he lives in a world that's not very cool. There's like a goblin gang that pretty much rules everything. And on Goblin Night, they just torture and kill people and feed people to the Goblin Queen. Actually, I got my wires crossed. Hold on. No, the spider isn't the first one. First, we're talking about Spider's Man. That's the real Dark World, where Peter Parker was eaten by a vat of radioactive spiders who absorbed his consciousness, and now they kind of just live inside the spider suit and fight crime, but they're kind of brutal, and they fight all these goblins, like Jack-o'-lantern, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Demi-Goblins in this. I'm a big Demi-Goblin fan and don't think he gets enough spotlight, so that makes me really happy. But Gwen is like, we can help you, and he's like, no you can't, I'm all spiders, bitch. So he seemed kind of funny in the Spider-Geddon event, but he's like really dark in Vault of Spiders. And then we have the spectacular Spider-Man, which is May Parker. And it's very wholesome. So she's fighting crime. She fights the Vulture. And Peter and Ben are they're her guy in the chair, which is really great. Because Ben provides like some wisdom, because he can think calmly, because he's not, in the middle of the fight. And Peter can do all the text and science stuff. And then she has the spider powers, but she's also got a really kind heart. I mean, they all do, but she has like a really kind heart. So it's a great team, a very wholesome read. I just really loved it. And then we have the one for the spider, George Stacy. I really got my wires crossed. Sorry, I was going to talk about him in reverse order, but sorry about that. Very unprofessional of me. But he was like wounded on the force, but got spider powers. So when they don't let him go into combat zones and stuff, he just dresses up as this real... he has this really efficient spider costume that's just black and white with not a lot of decorative stuff on it, and it's just an efficient tactile spider suit. He saves some reporters from the Shocker, who is a woman who I think is like Electro's wife or something. Is a little vague, but that's that. It's all pretty good. I really like the event. Once again, I still have some holes to fill in, like what's the spinner and all that stuff. Like what was Spider-Woman doing? How did Spider-Gwen get back if she was placed in a random dimension and then the dimension was sealed off? But they still came back from other dimensions, which I think was because of Spiderling. But once again, I'm not entirely sure because there was a lot of mix-up. Not mix-up. I say that like it's their fault. It's not their fault. It's just something that comes with the trade territory because it was written to be read single issues as they came out month per month. And then you're reading it in these collected editions where stuff's being left out and you have to go back and read it. Maybe they'll release the big collected edition like they did for Spider-Verse. I'm assuming they will. But if you don't want to wait for it, the trades are fine. I got them on Kindle for cheap, so... that's that. But we'll be doing the rest of the Spider-Geddon trades as well. We'll be doing Spider-Verse eventually. I kind of want to read more of my stuff that I haven't read before I go back and reread stuff I have read to review it. You know what I mean? So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Sorry this was such a long one, but it's an event. I mean, we just reviewed an event, and events are long. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember, rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. If you like our videos and Toku Spider-Man, we are actually making our own Toku show, but we need your help to make it. So check out the link to Indiegogo in the description below to help us make our show, Toku King. We also have a Patreon if you'd rather support us that way. But we have a lot going on, and I just really Really would enjoy your support, and I thank you for the support you've already given us. So that's it. Thank you all once again. I'll see y'all later.